Hello and welcome to the latest This is the Music Meets podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Hamilton singer-songwriter Paddy Mac, who is set to release his excellent second single, Nobody's Fool, on April the 1st. Paddy, thanks very much for coming on, mate. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here and I'm doing really good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Great to have you on. Really looking forward to the podcast tonight. So, obviously, as we said there, obviously, you've got a new single coming out just about a week away, or less than that now, actually. But as you know, we here at This Is the Music, we like to try and shine a bit of a light on new bands and artists, obviously, like yourself. So, is there anyone in particular that sort of caught your eye in the last sort of 6 to sort of 12 months type of thing?
Well, yeah, there's been a load of bands. I think the music industry's really kicking right now as a result of lockdown. So it's great to see all these new acts coming through. And the ones that I've been a big fan of would certainly be Lock-In, who I owe a lot of thanks to for being where I am today, being able to release music. Like, they've been a huge part of that. So I would definitely advise listening to new music. I think they're absolutely brilliant. And there's a new band up here in Scotland called Esquire, who I'm a big fan of as well, and they're doing a great job right now as well. They're playing loads of gigs and getting their music out there on Spotify and stuff. So yeah, they're definitely two bands that I would want to keep an eye on.
Definitely agree. Two great bands, and especially Lock-In. Massive fan of them, and they're a great set of lads as well. So all good in my eyes. So what's your musical background then? I mean, when did you first pick up a guitar? And can you remember maybe the first song that you learned to play?
Yeah, well, my sort of musical life sort of spawned from family parties. I come from quite a musical family. There's been a long history of musicians on my mum's side of the family. My great granddad used to play in a jazz band in ballrooms in Glasgow, in the Barrowlands and stuff like that.
Wow.
And he had he obviously I've saw my granddad and all my great uncles. They all play the guitar and sing and stuff like that. So whenever it was family parties and big get-togethers, guitars would always be out and people would always be singing along, and everyone always just looked so happy and just it looked as if they're all in their element. And I just really wanted a bit of that. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. And I think I decided to learn, it was a Proclaimer song. I'm pretty sure it was 500 Miles.
Okay, yeah, great song.
Yeah, quite typical Scottish song. And yeah, that song will always hold a special place because of that.
Yeah, mate, great song. And I'm loving the background story. That obviously is quite nice to hear, quite refreshing as well, that you've obviously been surrounded by music by the sounds of it, sort of from a very, very young age.
Yeah, so, I have.
Yeah, okay. So sorry there. So obviously the new single, Nobody's Fool, is due for release on the 1st of April. I've been very, very fortunate enough to hear it already, and it is a fantastic tune. So can you tell the listeners sort of about the inspiration behind the song?
Originally, the whole idea, it started off with the music of the song, and I think I was listening to the Pixies, and after listening to that song, I wanted to write a riff that sounded like Where's My Mind. I wanted to write that, and ended up writing what turned out to be the chorus. So I had that wee kind of riff in my sort of bank, and I was just kind of dying to use it because I thought it was quite catchy and I quite liked it. And then I can't remember where I was. I was listening to an interview or something like that, and I heard somebody call Andy Murray, who's the tennis player, a casual feminist.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was such a wee poetic description. And I just jotted it right down in my wee lyric book, and I've just been dying to use that lyric, and I thought, why don't we just write a song? So I ended up writing a song with that line and that riff, and it just kind of turned into this whole thing and gave me hundreds of experiences recording and in the studio and stuff like that, and playing it pubs and things like that as well. So yeah.
Sure. So how you've written Nobody's Fool, is that kind of how you approach songs, like normally, like in terms of you get a riff type thing, or do the words come first? How does it, or is it just sort of dependent?
I don't know. I normally have a sort of rhythm where I kind of I go about kind of like listening to people's conversations and listen to the telly, stuff like that, and I just kind of write down wee lines that I think would make good song lyrics. So I've got like this book full of hundreds and hundreds of song lyrics, and then some nights, like a couple nights a week, I'll just kind of jam out on my guitar and see if I can get anything. And sometimes I might strike gold, and I have this riff and these lines to use, and I just kind of bring them together and see where it goes.
Fantastic stuff. So obviously, as we said there, Nobody's Fool is going to be your second release, obviously after last year's song Teenage Week. So how would you describe that particular song and sort of like maybe the meaning of the song to maybe someone that hasn't heard your music yet?
Nobody's Fool or Teenage Week?
Teenage Week.
That song, I like to think of it as a sort of song to describe the part of like your teenage life where things can just go from like brilliant to rubbish in like the blink of an eye, like so fast. and I thought that'll make for a great song. So that's kind of how that's how I describe it. It's kind of like guitar music, kind of indie stuff, inspired by all that kind of stuff, inspired by like the Beatles and Oasis, all that kind of you can get that shining through in it. But yeah, it's kind of just guitar indie stuff, and that's kind of how I describe it really.
Fantastic. It's a fantastic song, and this is probably quite a difficult one for you to answer, really. But out of the two that you've released, what would you say is your personal favourite, or have you not got one, or is it up for other people to decide?
I don't know. Of course, it's up for other people to decide. But I would like to think that I'm improving as I keep playing and writing and performing. So I'm gonna hope that Nobody's Fool's better. I'm gonna say it is, because I like the idea of that. I'm just getting better and better at my songwriting. So I'm gonna say Nobody's Fool's better because of that. But
yeah, sure.
I'm always looking to improve, and so I don't know. It's really up for the listeners to decide. But I'd probably say Nobody's Fool, in my opinion. Probably, if I had to answer, that's probably what I'd say.
Great choice. So obviously, for many people, obviously playing live gigs was obviously put on hold, obviously due to the COVID pandemic, and hopefully now we're over the worst of it now and getting back to some sort of normality. But obviously before that all came about, you obviously managed to play at some really iconic venues, didn't you, in Glasgow, such as the Grand, the Clutha, I hope I pronounced that right, and King Tut's as well. So was there a show in particular that really stood out for you, and what was the experience like at playing at each of them venues?
Well, I've been playing gigs since like quite young, since I was about 12, I think. Like just before I went to high school. Yeah. I've been playing gigs there. I think the one that stuck out the most was my first ever time playing King Tut's. That was proper magic. I really, really enjoyed that. And it was, because it was King Tut's, I could kind of feel this sort of, I knew of its history and stuff like that, and there was just something about the place that was just sort of special. So playing it, I felt that when I was playing it, and it was a pretty magic night, and I had all my family there and friends there, and then there was hundreds of people who I didn't even know, and everyone was also supportive, and yeah, I just really enjoyed playing it. And I was like quite young at the time, but obviously because it was before lockdown, so I think that kind of inspired me to want to keep playing and keep writing. So that was probably quite a big night looking back on things. The experience playing Clutha and the Grand and stuff like that were totally magic as well. I played my first ever gig at the Clutha, so that'll always have a wee special place. And the Classic Grand I played as well, and they were both. It's a great feeling. No matter where I'm playing, I'm always enjoying it. It's always a great feeling playing live. But playing King Tut's is the pinnacle, definitely the top of the chart for me anyway.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned there obviously the history with King Tut's, and I'm guessing as well that probably adds to sort of like the expectation, I guess, for playing there, especially for for Scottish bands and solo artists like yourself.
Yeah, it certainly does. Like, I go to see bands that I like at King Tut's and stuff like that. So to actually play it is pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. There's a few venues that are like that in sort of like London that a lot of people aspire to. Like Brixton Academy and stuff. That's sort of like the pinnacle to get onto the the next step in before heading out to arenas and stuff like that. So before you sort of got playing to them gigs, have you done like street busking or anything like that at all, or is it sort of just straight in at the venues and not messing about?
No, I haven't actually tried busking on the street. Something that I'd actually quite like to do. I think that'd be quite an experience. Like, I like walking when I'm in Glasgow and that with my friends, and I'm always listening to the buskers because I think it's great. You just hear live music wherever you go. But I did get a lot of practice playing live at the family parties that I previously mentioned.
Yeah,
like they were. I mean, I knew everyone there, but they were busy enough. You know what I mean? So it was quite a good experience to get playing there. I think that probably taught me bits and bobs. And I can always play like my dad and my brother and my mum, and they'll always listen if I want them to. So I can get feedback and stuff like that. So yeah, that's probably where I sort of originally learned the tricks of the trade.
Fantastic. So just staying on live gigs, but more about what your experience is going as a punter. So can you remember maybe like the first gig that you attended and where it was and who it was?
Yeah, obviously, before there wasn't any gigs through lockdown, and before lockdown started, I was like 12 or something like that, like so young. So I didn't actually get to any gigs until after lockdown. And the first one I remember was brilliant. I remember going to see Fontaines DC at SWGC.
Yeah.
And Fontaines DC are like an absolutely brilliant band. They are probably one of the best in the scene right now. And live they are so much better as well. Like I've got like both their records on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
I can now say I've seen them. So they are definitely heroes of mine. And them live was absolutely brilliant. My big cousin took me to see them. And yeah, it was a proper special night. They were really good. Really enjoyed that night.
Fantastic. And sorry, you said that was SG3,
SWG3. So it's quite a big venue, but see for the size of the band that they are, I was quite surprised that they were playing a venue like that size because they're a flipping huge band now.
Yeah.
So for them it was I don't know how many was in the place, like 400 or something like that, but I was pretty maybe less, like 200 or something. So I felt because the gig was scheduled for way before, and it kept getting put back, and then when they played it, they were a big huge deal at that point. So it was a great experience to see them in that kind of intimate environment as well.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I must admit, I'm a big fan of the small venues. I think you find out quite a lot about the bands and when they're in that sort of smaller environment. So if you were picking 3 albums that you could listen to on repeat forever, what would you choose?
That's a hard question, but to be fair, I would love to be asked that on Desert Island Discs. That's like one of my dreams, to be on Desert Island Discs as well.
Yeah, there you go. This is the pre-record for that show.
I feel as if I'm there. I think I think of it that quite a lot because of that show, and I think I'd probably say if I had to, I think I'd probably go with The Queen Is Dead by the Smiths, because that's one of the albums. That's like one of my favourite personal albums, and I really like the Pogues as well. I'll probably take Rum Sodomy and the Lash by the Pogues, and probably Talking Book by Stevie Wonder. They're like 3 albums. They are probably my favourite 3 albums, I'm gonna say. Fantastic. And they bring back so many memories, and I just love listening to them as well. Like, they're great to listen to, and they spark so many great memories in me. So it's a win-win. Definitely, probably the 3, I'd say.
Absolutely, and that's one that you just picking up there. What you said about the memories, I think that's one of the most important things about music, and probably actually one of the things you said earlier about Teenage Week, that obviously it does evoke memories of being in a particular time or a situation. And I being an old Fuddy. I can just about remember my teenage years. So thanks for bringing that one back for us on that one. So if you were to say like sort of art, I mean, maybe you kind of answered this maybe a little bit in the last question, but would you say that the bands and the artists there that you've just mentioned, are they the ones that perhaps have had like the most influence on you in terms of your songwriting, or is there other people?
Well, I mean, they certainly were, because I think like what I tend to like, whatever I'm listening to, it tends to have an influence on like what I'm writing and how I'm writing and stuff like that. But I'd love to be able to write like Stevie Wonder and stuff like that, but that would take a lot of work. The people that probably influenced me the most, lyrically, I like John Cooper Clarke, the poet. He's probably he's definitely my favourite poet, and he's probably one of my favourite lyricists. And musically, like, I love Johnny Marr on the guitar. His guitar stuff's brilliant. So the Smiths generally probably a pretty big influence, probably the biggest influence on me. But you know, I'm really into my like soul, American soul, like Sam and Dave and all that. I'm really into OJs and all that. That's stuff that I really like to listen to. So, you know, I've got influences flying in from all over the place. So I don't know what my biggest influence is probably Smiths, only because they've been around. I've been listening to them since I was like any age. But recently, you know, in its my own music, I'm listening to like soul and reggae and, you know, a bit of guitar, indie music as well. So, you know, all that kind of stuff combined is what I'm releasing on Spotify, etc.
Yeah, fantastic.
I like to think so. Hope so.
Brilliant. So if you had a musical time machine, what era of music would you like to be transported back to?
I don't, man, that's a tough one. I think when you look at it, like, I mean, every, all, like the 70s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s all sound pure like dreamland when you look at them. But I think I'd love to see, there's a few bands I'd love to see live. Like, there's a few things I'd like to do. I'd like to go to the Hacienda, like when it was kicking with Happy Mondays and all that. That would be pretty cool. But I'd probably go back to the 80s, I'm going to say, because I'd like to see the Smiths live, and I think the 80s I think like the fashion in the 80s and stuff like that would be great as well. Yeah, I mean, there's some great released in the 80s, and even that like 80s pop scene and stuff like that, like say like Tears for Fears and stuff like that. It's like different genre, but they are like brilliant as well. So there was just so much quality stuff kicking about in the 80s, which I'd quite like to experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think it probably is sometimes an era that almost maybe gets a little bit forgotten about, maybe at times in certain aspects of, you know. But I think actually it's probably deserves a bit more recognition maybe than what it actually gets. So if you were putting on a musical festival, which 5 bands would you look to be adding to your bill?
5 bands. Oh my god. That's a good question, and I would definitely like to sort out a festival with any 5 bands. That would be a great laugh. I'd probably go for. I'd like to have Stevie Wonder there. I'd like to have the Pogues there. I'd like to have. I'm gonna say Bob Marley. I think he'd be great to have there. I'd have, I don't know, probably, I'm going to say maybe like the Arctic Monkeys or something like that. Maybe someone like that, some of the Arctic Monkeys probably. And then I'd probably get the Smiths to headline, but I'd need to make sure all members had separate dressing rooms, because I don't want to be splitting up fights. So I'll go with the Smiths as long as we can have 4 dressing rooms for the headline. Right, that's what I'll say.
Make sure they don't fall out before they get on stage.
I could definitely before they got on stage, that I could imagine. So I'll just keep them safe until they get on there.
Yeah, definitely. So if you maybe you've maybe got a good idea of this from the last answer, but if you could open a gig for any band, who would you choose?
That's a tough one. I think. I don't know. I'd quite like to play at the Barrowlands. So I'm going to say that I'd quite like to open for I'm gonna say, I don't know. I'd quite like to open for Sam and Dave at the Barrowlands. That's what I'm gonna say. That'd be a brilliant night. I'd really enjoy it. I'd definitely enjoy that. That'd probably be my ideal opening.
And again, we've mentioned a couple of venues already that are obviously very, very iconic in Glasgow, and obviously Barrowlands is another one that's well, probably the top of the tree, I guess. I'm assuming for the Scottish musicians like yourself.
Yeah, definitely. The Barrowlands is probably like my dream venue to play. I think that'd be amazing. I've been there a couple of times. I've been there twice, and it's definitely by far the best place I've ever been to watch a gig. Like it was absolutely class when I went to see Inhaler there, and it was brilliant. The Barrowlands is probably my favourite venue to go see bands in, so I'd love to play there. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I've heard quite a lot of a good lot of stories about that venue, and I hope one day that, well, you never know, maybe I'll get to see you up there. Would be fantastic.
Yeah, okay.
We'll go. We'll get it organised. So if you could collaborate with any musician, either dead or alive, who would you choose? If obviously that was possible. So.
I'd probably. I mean, I've asked this question to myself before, and I think I'd go with Johnny Marr. I think his melodies on the guitar and his style and his look, and I think he's total vibe. He just seems like an awesome guy, and I'd love to spend a day in the studio with him, writing and jamming and stuff like that. That's probably the person I'd want to collab with if I could.
Great choice, and agree with everything there that you said about him, from the playing and how he looks and everything like that. And as I say, great choice. So here's some quick fire questions for you now. Right. What is your favourite crisp flavour?
I'm gonna say salt and vinegar.
Great choice. What's your favourite chocolate bar?
Dairy milk out of the fridge.
Oh, wow. And what about your favourite TV series?
Well, my dad forces me to watch a lot of absolute rubbish all the time. So I'm trying. The best so far has been The Sopranos. I'm trying to enjoy that right now. I'm going to say The Sopranos for that reason. But I do spend most of my TV watching days, wasting my time watching rubbish TV with my dad. So. But the Sopranos was all right. I'll give him that. That was pretty good. That's probably the best one he showed me.
Sure, and sort of as well. How do you like listen to your music? You sort of mentioned you've got a couple of albums on vinyl. Is it purely vinyl for you, or is it sort of through the streaming and download platforms now?
Yeah, well, I was always actually a bit cautious to start collecting vinyl, because I knew as soon as I started, I would have just that would have been me gone, and I would have wasted thousands of pounds on vinyls. But I love doing that. You know what I mean? That's it's great. I love buying vinyl. I listen to my music on vinyl and on like Spotify mainly. But I like listening to vinyl is so much cooler, and it's so much better for the artists as well, because they're getting paid and stuff like that. So yeah, I prefer vinyl, but I listen to it on Spotify and I listen to music on vinyl as well.
Yeah, definitely. It has obviously got its advantages with the Spotify and on the other platforms that are out there. But yeah, I prefer the physical copy, and like you said there, guilty as charged in terms of spending a lot of money on vinyl. So I know how you're feeling. Just go for it. Yeah. That's what I say.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
So what are your plans now then? Obviously we got the new single coming out. What can we expect from Paddy Mac for the rest of 2022?
Well, I'm hoping to play a lot more gigs, and do hopefully maybe even release more music, stuff like that. Also probably I'll be all over social media, doing my covers and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully exciting, maybe even release more music, stuff like that. That's what I'm hoping to see for the rest of the year anyway. Yeah,
sure. And do you think that would be more sort of like a single release, or do you think maybe there might be a plan maybe for like an EP, or are you just going to sort of keep it just as the one-off releases at the moment?
Well, obviously the dream would be to release an album. That's really what I'm going to be working towards my whole my whole career up to that point. I'm not sure what will come in the future. It just depending on how things go and, you know, how much I'm writing and stuff like that. But I would love to release an album in the future.
Great stuff. And I, for one, will definitely be looking forward to that day when it comes. And hopefully that'll be in the very, very near future. So unfortunately, that is the end of the podcast. Paddy, thanks very much for coming on to today's This Is The Music Meets podcast. I've had an absolute blast, and I hope that you have as well. Just before you go, can you let the listeners know where they can find you on your social media platforms?
Yeah, on Instagram it's Paddy Mac Official, and on Twitter it's Paddy Mac Music, and on Facebook you should just be able to search up Paddy Mac and it'll come up. And also on Spotify as well, you can follow there if you really like it.
Brilliant. I will make sure that them links are all included in the episode bio to make it a little bit easier for people to find you on there. And as I say, I wish you continued success as well, not with just the new single, but beyond that as well. And obviously, as I say, Nobody's Fault is released on the 1st of April and is going to be available on all major streaming and download platforms. Thanks to everybody for watching the latest episode. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to receive the latest This Is The Music Meets podcast straight to your inbox. But more importantly, give Paddy Mac a follow, a like, and obviously stream his music because it is definitely worth it. Paddy, thanks very much for coming on, and I hope to see you somewhere down the road very, very soon.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure.